Hey, Reviews and Dunn. Who's giving you a dose this week?
What's going on, folks? Once again, it's Mr. Derek Dunn back with another A1 interview. As you all know, I just got back from Sundance, and I had the pristine privilege of talking to Mr. Judd Ehrlich, who directed probably my second favorite documentary at Sundance, Jane Elliott Against the World. So, I know who Jane Elliott was, or I'm sorry, who she is, and I was really, really excited to find out more about her work, her background, and really just how she is outside of her fighting for activism. So welcome to the line, Judd. And first and foremost, what was your motivation for doing this doc?
I mean, Jane Elliott is a singular figure in this country, and she's one of a kind. She doesn't care about making people comfortable, whether it's on a one-on-one basis or just doing her thing out in the world, in the media and elsewhere. She wants to challenge people, and she's been challenging white Americans for over 5 decades to look at the realities in this country. And she doesn't shy away from doing that. And so I wanted to tell her story because I felt like at the moment we started doing it, she was more relevant than ever. And, premiering yesterday with everything that's happening in this country right now, it really feels like the time that people need to wake up to her message and hear what Jane has been talking about all this time and continues to talk about at age 92.
Yeah, so I was actually at the one of the P&I screenings last week, and just the way that we were reacting to the way that Jane would drop that knowledge on people, you're just applauding because she's saying everything that's so right. And for myself, a big thing that I always tell people is you got to have empathy. That's the biggest thing. Just have empathy. Now, while you might not be able to relate to what somebody is going through and their struggles in life, if you have empathy and you're willing to take the chance to speak to this person and actually see why they feel the way that they feel, you might actually learn something. And just sitting in the theater, I mean, I'm applauding, I'm smiling because everything is coming across as organic. And the things that Jane did from the first experiment, when she was a teacher, you could do that same thing now and maybe even do something where you have someone that's a carnivore and you kind of flip it to a vegan and the effect might still hit the same. So, I mean, kudos to you for the way that you handled the doc. And also, for the California case, like I had no idea about that. And I'm just sitting in the theater like, man, there's so much that goes on that we don't know. So how did you decide to really parallel the California aspect of the doc to what Jane did in her day?
We could have easily made a film about Jane Elliott that took place in the past, that had no current day storyline. It could have been sort of a typical biopic. But as I said before, Jane, unfortunately, in ways, she doesn't want to be as relevant as she is. She wants these problems to be solved. She wakes up every morning and can't believe we're still in the same place that we are. Like many Americans wake up every morning and think about how are we still here? How are we still dealing with these same problems so many years later? Over hundreds of years of this country's history. So, for Jane, this fight is an everyday battle. I really like, Derek, that you use the word empathy when you talk about Jane, because I think that's often something that people overlook when they see clips of her doing the exercise. And people label it, which we deal with a little bit in the film, as cruel. It's the opposite. It is about empathy. It is about putting you in somebody else's shoes for a moment. That's it. If you can understand that for a moment, maybe you can be motivated to change. Maybe you can be just shaken out of your daily reality enough to say, okay, I get it, and I'm going to do better. So that's really what Jane is all about. And it's what she spends every single day waking up and fighting for, no matter what the cost. And you see some of those costs in the film too, to her family. And, this work is not easy, and it's not easy to get up every day and do this work. And nobody is saying it is. But what's the alternative? You don't do the work, and we end up with a country with a lot of the problems that we're dealing with today, right now. And that's it. That's a future that I don't think any of us want.
Facts. So one of the big things you mentioned also that kind of hit hard for me was when in the doc when we hear her kids speak about how what she was doing while it was right, it affected their relationship. And just like watching the daughters speak in death, it kind of reminded me of I'm a vet, so being deployed and just how you're trying to do the right thing, but in essence, you have to sometimes share your parents or your partner or your friends with a bigger purpose. So when you were cutting the final cut, was there anything like emotional that you decided not to feature because it was just a little bit too personal for the Elliott family?
It's a great question. I mean, I think such a big part of making any documentary is earning the trust of your subjects and working with your subjects to do their story justice. Um, we were lucky enough that Jane and her daughters, Mary and Sarah, they really opened up in the filming of this, and they didn't hold back. And I think you see that in the film. And I felt like I had their blessing to go there. They had never gone there before. Jane's daughters really had never been in any of the documentaries that were made about Jane in the past. Those really focused on Jane doing the exercise. And uh, it was an important piece of the story because I think I didn't want to sugarcoat what it means to go out there and fight every day. There are costs to it, as I said, and we should be honest about that. But again, what's the alternative? So you need to understand those costs and then at the same time, you need to be willing to risk something. And that's what it means to truly do this work. You got to be willing to risk a little something, and risk your comfort, risk your privilege, risk your friends, your family, all of that, for the greater good. That's what Jane has done, and she continues to do at 92 years old.
Yes, she does. So how did Mr. Killer Mike become involved with the project?
Killer Mike is Jane's number one fan. He really is. He was there at the Q&A last night, came to the screening, came to the party afterwards. He's one of my favorite people in the world, honestly. He's a brilliant, brilliant man. And he loves Jane Elliott. And so when I approached him about the film, he signed up right away. I flew down to Atlanta. We interviewed him. You can see how powerful he is in the movie, and he really understands how Jane came to be the person that she is, the journey that she went on, how she had the realization that all of us should have, which is that racism is a white problem created by white people. It sounds very basic to say, but too many white people don't realize that. And so having Killer Mike be part of the film is really special. Having him there at the premiere yesterday was very, very special to me. And he's just a wonderful spokesperson for Jane, for her message, and for this film.
Definitely. So I think, on a final note, one of the big things that stuck with me was towards the end where Jane talks about her dad. And recently, I have a son that's a senior in high school. He's going to college next year. So recently, I put him on the higher learning and classic film. And there's a thing at the end of the movie, where the word unlearn comes up in text. And hearing Jane speak about her father, again, it's like, I think we all have our biases. We all have our misconceived notions, but anything that you've been taught about a particular ethnicity, particular sex, particular mindset, it can be unlearned. And when Jane, spoiler for the doc, when Jane speaks about that, it's almost like she was on the verge of tears, but she was more just feeling, I guess, blessed that her father in his, senior years was able to unlearn what he taught his kids and what, he taught him. And when she goes into the, never again did he say this, or never again did he do that. So how was that hearing for you as the filmmaker, hearing her just talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, Derek, you're focusing on a moment in the film that's really important, and I think it is that moment that brings it home and makes it really personal. This idea that you're talking about, which is, we are not born this way. We are not born racist. We are not born sexist. We are not born anti-Semitic. We can go on and on and on. This is learned, and as you said, Derek, it can be unlearned. Jane understands that, and for that reason, that's why education is so important as an answer here, because we need to be teaching our children from an early age. And Jane really understands that. But this story that you're talking about with her father, it really, when you see your own father, who Jane really idolized, be able to change in that way from something that you did, that you put into the world, it really gives you a personal motivation, understanding, belief that what you're doing is right. And this idea that you're talking about of, this is learned and it can be unlearned, that's right, that she's right about that. And it just gave her the power to make changes in her own life, but also that belief to continue what she's doing and keep doing it every day. And, we both know that she does this work every single day, and she continues to do it.
Well, I want to thank you for taking time out of your super duper busy schedule at Sundance to chop it up with me. I know how busy it is. Like I said, I just got home myself and had a blast. And when I found out you guys were going to be there, I had to make it a mission to actually see this in the theater with the crowd, just to peep the reaction and the energy. It still stuck with me. I really hope that schools are willing to show this, because it's an eye-opening doc that needs to be seen. And on that note, where can fans find your social media, and where can they learn more about Miss Elliott on social media?
Jane Elliott Film on all social media, and janeelliottfilm.com. Best place to go right now.
All right. Thank you again, Sarah. Congrats again on a wonderful, phenomenal film.
I appreciate it so much, Derek. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, what's up? This is Ludacris.
What's up, y'all? This is Nicki Minaj.
You're rocking with the best. It's Reviews and Done.